to my thesis proposal. I am Sarah Moore. My first few years of microfarming, I planted about 25 varieties of heirloom crops. I used no synthetic fertilizers or pesticides, minimal water intervention. I used clover as a cover crop and integrated chickens and mini pigs into the field. At the end of the growing season, I had big, beautiful, diverse fruits and vegetables, enough for my family and neighbors to subsist off of, on basically a 1/8 acre plot. The mama pig devoured the watermelon though, much to the dismay of my youngest son. Since then, I've been fascinated with how we can be good stewards of the earth and also maximize food production on small land plots. My thesis proposal is achieving carbon net neutrality with regenerative agriculture and the implementation of urban space. Let's review some background information. For thousands of years, agricultural practices have contributed to the loss of soil carbon. Researchers have recently estimated that as much as 80%, or 133 billion tons of carbon, have been lost. The top 3 feet of the world's soil contains 3 times as much carbon as the entire atmosphere, making it a major carbon sink. Soils play a key role in the carbon cycle by soaking up carbon from dead plant matter. Human activities from agriculture can cause carbon to be released from the soil at a faster rate than it is replaced. After World War II, enormous single crop farms, or monocultures, were developed. This has been termed industrial agriculture. These intensive monoculture farming systems deplete the soil. They rely heavily on pesticides and fertilizers to support single crops, which create runoff into freshwater systems. The ecosystems and biodiversity are also harmed. Additionally, carbon is released into the atmosphere instead of being stored or sunk into the soil. Researchers now estimate that industrial agriculture only has 60 years of topsoil remaining in which to farm, unless significant changes are made. Regenerative agriculture suggests that its methods not only are a solution to feed the ever-growing population of the world, but that regenerative agricultural practices can reverse current carbon emissions by sinking carbon into the soil. This will restore soil organic matter and also create new topsoil. Carbon dioxide emissions are a major contributor to climate change. Last year, 2018, saw carbon dioxide emissions rise by 2.7%. This occurred after 2017's emissions had already increased by 1.6%. The International Panel for Climate Change has stated that global greenhouse gas emissions must be reduced by almost 50% to prevent the world from surpassing the rising temperature threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius. If global temperatures do exceed this threshold, there will be many devastating effects. In terms of agriculture, biodiversity will greatly decline, including the loss of important food crops and pollinating insects. Extinction rates are estimated to increase 10 times over. Regenerative agriculture, on the other hand, does not just sustain biodiversity, its practices improve it. It also improves topsoil and creates new soil, increases crop and soil nutrient density, and in doing so, sequesters carbon into the soil. Urban areas currently maintain the majority of the global population. Researchers estimate that the global population will reach 9.8 billion by the year 2050. Urban agriculture can reduce carbon emissions not only with the implementation of these practices, but also by reducing emissions traditionally exhausted in food storage and in transport. There are two research questions for this thesis proposal. Are regenerative agricultural practices capable of achieving carbon net neutrality? And what are the implications for regenerative agriculture for urban space? For methodology, a meta-analysis will be conducted with published peer-reviewed studies of the effects of agricultural land management practices on soil carbon concentration and carbon stock in cropping systems published between 2010 and 2019. The sample sizes and means of soil carbon will be reported for control and treatment plots. For consistency purposes, the minimum study length will be 3 years of observations. Additionally, studies must utilize regenerative practices, including conservation tillage, residue retention, cover cropping, and the absence of synthetic pesticide or fertilizer apps. For this study's purposes, conservation tillage will be defined as no-till or reduced tillage. Residue retention will include both surface and residue retention of plant matter, and cover cropping will consist of a crop being used to cover all bare soil during and beyond harvest. Data software will be used for the data analyses. A second data set will then analyze the hectares required globally to achieve carbon net neutrality. Finally, both data sets will be analyzed together to determine how regenerative agriculture can be utilized in urban areas to achieve global carbon net neutrality. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to your thoughts and feedback.